When Jesus talked about a time to sow, or rather, he didn't talk about it, Ecclesiastes talked about it, but he picked up on it. Jesus picked up on a time to sow when he gave the parable of the sower. And when he did that, he knew that it would speak really clearly to those who were listening to him at the time. They were an agrarian community, and crops and what happened, the times and the seasons were really, really important to them. And so he knew when he spoke about seeds falling on different sorts of soil, what it would mean to them. And a time to sow is a really, it takes effort, it takes time, it's a real labour intensive thing to do. It's not just simply the scattering of the seed. But he would have known that they would have needed to go through the soil and pick out the rocks, and they would need to take the leaves out. Sorry, not the leaves, the weeds. They'd need to take the weeds out, and they would need to dig down and remove them as best that they could, so that those weeds didn't get in the way of the crop that was being sown. And they would have got their hands dirty. Sowing seeds is not it's not a clean thing. It's not an easy thing. It's not something that you sit back and relax in. But it takes graft, and it takes time, and it takes effort, and you have to be out in all weathers. It's not just a fair weather thing. And so a time to sow is a really difficult time. It's not. You look at the lives of farmers today, and the number of hours that they spend preparing the soil, that they're out in their tractors and they're going up and down, and they're ploughing the ground, and they're turning over the old stuff, and they're exposing the roots of the weeds to the sun so that it gets killed, and so that they can plant the new crops, and plant them knowing that they have a chance of growing, of thriving, of then being harvested. And so if this is a time to sow, it's not a time for sitting still, for sitting back. It's a time for engaging with what's going on in our lives. It's a time for allowing the Holy Spirit to turn over what's been sitting in our hearts or in our minds at this time, and even for maybe for some time before that. A time to sow requires us to act. It requires us to engage. It requires us to be active in our walk with Jesus. It requires us to look at what is it that Jesus wants to plant in our lives. What does he want to put into our hearts, into our minds, into our spirits, into our souls, that he knows will reap a harvest? And what does he want us to put into the lives of those around us? Who is it who is looking for something fresh and new and healthy to be planted in their life, because what has grown up till now might not have satisfied them. It might not have met every need that they've got. And we know that in Jesus, he meets every one of our needs, because he knows us, because he loves us, because he rejoices over us, because he exalts over us, because he created us. He made us to be those who are in relationship with him and who have him planted deeply, firmly in our hearts. So if this is a time to sow, what does Jesus want to sow in our lives? If this is a time to sow, what does he want us to plant in the lives of those around us? If this is a time to sow, are we allowing the Holy Spirit to take out the rocks, take out the weeds, take out the things that are getting in the way of us growing in our life with Jesus? Let's make this a time to sow that is active, not passive. A time to sow that is engaged and maybe a bit dirty, maybe a bit messy, maybe it gets under your fingernails, and it's really, it's not necessarily pleasant, but it does what it needs to do, which is plant seeds that will grow, that will bear fruit, that will bring to fruition something that is good, something that is pleasing, and something that is worthwhile. A time to sow.